More I don't mind. All the demons. Good morning and welcome to the judges, teachers, and judges, teachers, guests, and participants of Frsis 2025. Now, I'd like to introduce our judges today. Chief Judge is Prof. Dr. Salami Yejam. Respected is Prof. Dr. Salami Yejam, Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, UNVEILING. Also, Deputy Dean of Student Third Judge, the second judge is Ms. Third judge is Ms. I am the Sekolah Tun Fatimah today for this session. And thank you for times from the as well. And me as well. Allow me to you to each team should consist of presenters and technical assistants. Presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned to the team. The duration of the presentation should not be more than 2 minutes. The bell will be rung once, 9 minutes, and twice. The question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation. Now, let's get back to this team. Oh, okay. Ada apa?
In short, that is one. Penelitian. It's a this one. But it's yes. But you read the full name first.
And then from
Yeah. Oh, and then you put the short. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Test. Okay. Okay. All right. Yep. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. One, two, three. Testing 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Welcome to the judges, guests, and participants. Let's go. I'm the moderator. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Okay. Wonderful presentation. Good morning and welcome to the judges, teachers, and participants of Frsis 2025. Now, I'd like to introduce our judges today. The Chief Judge is Prof. Dr. Salamia A. Jamal, Professor, Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, UITM Shah Alam. Also, Deputy Dean of Student Affairs, FPHP. The second judge is Ms. Suryati binti Mamat from SMS Dungun SMSD. The third judge is Ms. Nurul Shahida from binti Muhammad Noor from SMS Rajatun Azlan Shah. Forgive me. And I am Noor Idin bin Muhammad Afif from Sekolah Menengah Saint Chumbau. While the timekeepers are Safwan bin Muhammad Izwan and Dani Azfar bin Darul Azwan from Sekolah Menengah Saint Kuala Selangor. Now, allow me to read the rules. Each team should consist of presenters and a technical assistant. The presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned for each team. The duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. The bell will be rung once at the 10th minute and twice will be rung once at the 9th minute and twice at the 10th minute. A question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation. Now, I invite the first team from Sekolah Menengah Saint Kuala Selangor to present. Okay.
As the growing green tourism hotspots that are trying to achieve SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we tell you right now, green tourism in Kuala Selangor are helping the local to generate a stable income and support their businesses. We're from Kuala Selangor Science School and represent to you today Green Trails and Golden Gains, the nature's path to prosperity. But before that, Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Faiz.
And I'm Sound.
And joining us today is Dura and Hasif Adam. And so, the basis of our research is two terms. First, income diversification. Second, job diversification. So, income diversification basically means before, you only rely on one means of income. Now, you have a main income and a side earning to generate a stable wages. Second, job diversification, which means before, you only work in one economical sector. Now, you work in various economical sectors. Alternatively, these are the three main sectors. First, primary sector, which means the extraction of raw materials such as agriculture and fishing. Secondary sector, which means the transformation of the raw materials into finished goods such as manufacturing. And tertiary sector, which means services and infrastructure.
Hence, this leads us to our two main research questions.
First, what is the role of green tourism in improving local livelihoods, participation, and overcoming challenges?
Second, how does green tourism diversify job and business opportunities?
As for our objectives, first, to explore how green tourism improves local income and community involvement.
Second, to understand how green tourism creates diverse jobs and business opportunities for locals.
And third, to identify challenges that limit local participation in green tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, we've conducted our research using both qualitative method and quantitative method. Qualitatively, we did interview with stakeholders and also document analysis. For instance, we interviewed Teko National Kuala Selangor branch,
the representative for Malis Bandaran Kuala Selangor,
the owner of the Riverview Seafood Restaurant, which is the first ever restaurant in Kuala Selangor,
the owner of Traffic Kuala Selangor Seafood Restaurant, who's also the main fishmonger in Kuala Selangor and also owns multiple homestays,
Mr. Lim Shan Leng. We also did site visiting and observation to observe green tourism activities here in Kuala Selangor. We went to Selangor Fruit Valley, Sky Mirror, Street Art, and also Kuala Selangor Nature Park.
To understand local perspectives on green tourism, we did surveys and online forms.
Now, as for our findings, ladies and gentlemen, in conjunction of Visit Selangor 2025, Tourism Selangor are promoting Kuala Selangor's green tourism. Now, why did this happen? Because nowadays, travelers are seeking an eco-friendly tourism that respects both nature and culture. That's why MPCAS is expecting an increase in the number of tourists. Now, to facilitate this phenomenon, MPCAS are offering a lot of part-time jobs in the green tourism industries, such as tour guides, agro-businesses, and micro-businesses. So that's why more youth are returning to start their own eco-businesses in their beloved hometown, Kuala Selangor, as their side earnings, ladies and gentlemen. So now you have a main income, you also have a side earnings, boom, a stable wages. That's why MPCAS reports a 15% to 30% increase in average household income. And also, 8 out of 10 locals talk about their social economic status has improved a lot. And also, did you know that over 1,000 small and medium-sized enterprises in Kuala Selangor are mostly related to green tourism?
Despite all of the efforts done by MPCAS and Tekun, we can see locals are diving into green tourism because Tekun National has given over 1.2 million approved loans to micro business in the Kuala Selangor district that involves street vendors, startup business, and even e-commerce businesses.
Ladies and gentlemen, now job diversification has happened in Kuala Selangor. As we can see, fishermen, which is in the primary sector, has now do their side earnings in the tertiary sector, running boat tours to Sky Mirror and Firefly Park, earning up to 500 ringgit to 1,000 ringgit daily.
Selling fruits, stay no more. Thanks to green tourism, we can see the diversification where local fruit farms now offer entrance ticket, workshops, and even guided tours.
Agro-businesses, which is in the secondary sector, now did their side income in the agro-tourism sector, which is in the tertiary sector, generate up to 500 ringgit daily during peak tourist season.
Do you remember Mr. Lim from the interview earlier?
Now, this is his story.
At the age of 18, being a local fisherman and just earning up to 120 ringgit per week,
Now, when the green tourism become a popular thing in Kuala Selangor, he has expanded from the primary to the secondary sector, become the main distributor of seafoods to the local, and also has helped the local during the COVID-19 era.
Hence, in 2025, just more than opening a restaurant, he has diversified into owning multiple homestays and also becoming the main distributor of fish in Kuala Selangor. From his restaurant, you can visit Firefly Sanctuary, Blue Tears, and also eagle feeding.
So, from Mr. Lim's story, we can see first, job diversification happened from primary to secondary to tertiary, and also income diversification happened where before he only relied on one main income, which is as a fisherman. Now, he also worked as a fisherman, as a distributor, and as the owner of multiple businesses in Kuala Selangor.
When we talk about the green tourism, we cannot forget this friend, the environment.
Ladies and gentlemen, when the number of tourists increased in Kuala Selangor, MPKS and NGOs has launched various initiatives to ensure the sustainability of green tourism here. That's why, as we can see, more than 40,000 mangroves and 2,500 saplings were planted each year, currently absorbing 6,600 kilograms of carbon dioxide yearly and boosting our air quality.
We can also see how Kuala Selangor Nature Park safeguards 2.4 kilometers square of wetlands housing 13 mangrove forests and 100 bird species. We can also see how more research and development is done in Kuala Selangor to sustain the green tourism because we see firms like UiTM and FRIM are studying the mangroves in order to keep them healthy.
Now, through local participation in green tourism industry, where we are actually nurturing the environmental awareness in the youth. That's why more local school students are joining up to do beach cleanups every once in a week to ensure the cleanliness of the green tourism spots here in Kuala Selangor.
To see the progress of green tourism in Kuala Selangor,
we can see we changed from Majlis Daerah to Malipur Bandara in Kuala Selangor due to green tourism, for it has fulfilled these 5 main criteria based on our interviews and also surveys and document analysis. First, economical sector. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1994, most locals' main income consists of the primary sector. However, by 2024, they have diversified their job scope. They have a side earnings in the secondary and tertiary sector. Hence, why we can see both of these percentages have risen over the years.
when we have a good economical sector, the number of population in Kuala Selangor also increases. When green tourism is good here, we can attract more locals and also foreigners to come and live in Kuala Selangor. Hence, we reduce the number of out-migration because green tourism in Kuala Selangor is able to provide better living conditions and encourage more people to stay.
Next, according to the research done by Azizam Aziz from UPM and Hassan Mohammed Zakaria from the TMU, we can see green tourism has grown significantly over the years. And also, as I stated earlier, when we have a main income and we have a side earnings, the economical growth in Kuala Selangor has skyrocketed to another level that we have never achieved before since 1990. However, was stunted in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, when that happened, Kuala Selangor's green tourism has contributed 19.5 million ringgit to the local GDP and become the top districts in Selangor for the past 4 years as the main contributor. And also, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, nowadays, locals are encouraged to pursue in the secondary and tertiary sector. Now, to accommodate this phenomenon, MPKS are actually preparing, improving, and increasing the number of facilities such as ecotourism facilities, green utilities, and digital smart initiative. Hence, where we can see these 3 sectors have risen over the years.
When we see green tourism development, it helps us see how MTKS to MPKS, a powerful symbol of urbanization. Despite all the benefits green tourism can give to you, we must still address the elephant in the room. When the number of tourists increase in Kuala Selangor, we see an issue in the environmental challenges such as waste management struggles and pressure on natural sites. But fear not, because MPKS has introduced better waste sorting stations and also will collaborate with schools and NGOs to launch eco-awareness campaigns.
As for economical challenges, an uneven benefit distribution will happen where small businesses are struggling to compete with other businesses out there. But you need not to worry, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we say so? Because MPKS and Tekun is providing microloans, training, and marketing support to help your business compete and grow with them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe secretly all of you guys want to live in Kuala Selangor, right? What is the future of it? We see by 2050, Kuala Selangor will become a green city because we're able to adapt to green tourism and build a smarter infrastructure for a city-ready future.
We are also advancing our services, empowering local businesses, and expanding the tertiary sector.
We're increasing our population
By building a stable income base exceeding 100 million ringgit annually.
We also see Kuala Selangor becoming Malaysia's model for green tourism district.
and become a regional education and research hub for green innovation.
So in conclusion, green tourism in Kuala Selangor is a catalyst for diversification of local economies. From MDKS to MPKS, congratulations Kuala Selangor.
That's all from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation by Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuala Selangor. I would like to invite the participants to ask any questions.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much. That was actually a great presentation. My name is Ikonari from Sekolah Tun Razak. I have one question. Will receiving an influx of tourists not just worsen the harms of over-tourism and incentivize overdevelopment? How do your suggestions accommodate to that? And how can those suggestions be applied in a macro aspect in the entirety of Malaysia?
So to accommodate that, we actually are planning to urbanize our city by implementing green technology here. So as we stated earlier, first and foremost, MPKS and other NGO are launching various initiatives and continuously launching various sustainability programs to ensure that no matter, even if we urbanize our Kuala Selangor city, we are urbanizing it in the right track without actually harming the environment. First, we did the forest cleanup program, beach cleanup program, or also mangrove plantation program. Next, we are also implementing green technology. For example, right now, Kuala Selangor are actually planning to do water harvesting and also water conservation to ensure that we can actually gain water sources without harming the environment. That's the first thing. Second, for electricity generation, we're actually planning to build solar panels on the building and residential areas so that we can generate electricity using a reliable source without harming the environment. And also right now, PKS are collaborating with University of Selangor to actually implement and adopting technology in green tourism here. For example, they are planning to create an ecotourism app and also ecotourism app. Do you have anything to add?
So all these initiatives are currently being done by MPKS to sustain ourselves in Kuala Selangor, even if we become urbanized or a city. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hey, sorry. Okay. I'm Mirza. I'm from Sekolah Menengah Sains Muar. So we're talking about green tourism that is happening in Kuala Selangor, right?
Yes.
There has been reports or live experiences in our excursions, right? There are monkeys intruding the local areas in Kuala Selangor. So what did the MPKS do to solve this problem?
Okay, thank you for the amazing question. Okay, first and foremost, regarding the monkeys in Bukit Malawati or anywhere you do see during the excursion, it is being taken care of by MPKS and collaborating with the Indian community in Kuala Selangor. From our site visits, we can see in Bukit Malawati is mostly dominated by the Indian community. So they are the ones taking the effort and collaborating with MPKS to sustain those things by helping with tourists, talking to them, guiding them towards how to treat the animals and so on. Hence, we're also developing green tourism, we're also saving the monkeys. Also, in the 4 years of living in Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuala Selangor, we've barely seen a monkey attack one of our students.
And also, ladies and gentlemen, right now we have launched various research and development to ensure that these monkeys does not play with our trash and polluting the environment. For instance, when we during the excursion, as you can see, there is actually an anti-monkey bin where they put a bin in a cage with a pipe for you to throw your trash in the bin so that the monkey cannot get their hands on the trash and polluting the environment.
Anybody else? Okay, yes.
Hello. Okay. Assalamualaikum to everyone. I'm Nur Hazir Amani from Sekolah Tun Fatimah. So my question is, how will Kuala Selangor sustain their green tourism if it becomes a city and urbanized?
Okay, thank you for the question. First and foremost, we are already planning by 2050 to become a city. Hence, that means we will become urbanized. And we'll also be able to adapt to green tourism. For this, when we did our interview with MPKS, they've already talked about their initiative that is going into green technology. When we're going into green technology, we have seen a certain aspect on becoming the buildings becoming greener, harvesting water, and even electricity. Second, we also see how MPKS is already working towards working with University of Selangor or building resilience apps where it makes easier for tourists to adapt to green tourism.
And also right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are not just urbanizing our city. Actually, we are also developing the green tourism spot in Kuala Selangor without harming them. So while our city is developing and urbanizing, we are actually developing and we are not neglecting the forest. So we do forest cleanup program and mangrove plantation program. Does that answer your question? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your answers. So from us, we have one question. We go back to your research. Just now you mentioned about doing a mixed method, which is quantitative and qualitative. So our question is that for quantitative research, who are your respondents and how many respondents do you survey?
For that question, we had two ways during the quantitatively. First, we did local surveys physically. Second, we did online surveys with local school students from Kuala Selangor. We did contact them and we had the representative being sent to us through online. So when we did the interview, we had youth perspective, also middle-aged perspective, and also old people's perspective in Kuala Selangor. So most roughly, we had more than 100 people in the surveys and also online forms to look at multiple perspectives and views.
Okay, when you have survey and you have interview, okay, do you ask the same questions in the interview and in the survey, or it is totally a different question, different set of questions for interview and for survey?
For interviews, we wanted to look at perspectives. What is the initiatives being taken and how are they adapting towards green tourism? But for the surveys, we want to see the impact on green tourism in Kuala Selangor towards them.
All right, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, I would like to thank Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuala Selangor for their wonderful presentation. Next, I would like to invite Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak to present.
This.
Oh, hello. No.
This.
Subhanallah. How do you make it louder? Can you make it a bit louder, saya?
Kuat kecil.
The lectures. So where'd you put this thing?
Okay. As students, we often overlook poverty until we see the faces behind it. Some walk miles for water. Others leave school to feed their families. That's why awareness matters. And that's where we begin. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. My name is Kuala Johan.
And I'm Kuala from Adaha.
And today, we are thrilled to be here to talk about how ecotourism can turn areas of rural poverty into areas of possibilities. For your information, this presentation is going to be split into three parts. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the problem statement. Secondly, we'll show you our research. And last but not least, we'll give a few recommendations on how the government can implement and improve ecotourism in Malaysia.
Ladies and gentlemen, we start with a few definitions. First and foremost, ecotourism is commonly known as the act of responsible travel towards natural areas, such that it 1. Conserves the environment and 2. Benefits the people. Such examples will be agrotourism, farm tourism, and rural tourism. On the other hand, economic diversification refers to the act of diversifying local economies from a single source of income to multiple sources of income.
Ladies and gentlemen, the problem that we are trying to solve today is rural poverty. Now, according to the Khazanah Research Institute, 12% of rural people are living below the poverty line. That is an estimate of 890,000 individuals who are just barely getting by. And to put the scale, even if I had 10 Stadium Bukit Jalil, it still would be enough to fit everyone in one place. We found that the reason behind this is a lack of economic diversity. In rural areas, agriculture and fishing activities represent the main livelihoods of the local community. Data from the Department of Statistics Malaysia shows that more than 1.4 million people in agriculture are from rural areas. But agriculture alone isn't enough to support the people. What we need is more options, and we need it quick. Now, most of us are probably unaware of the misery of being poor. Well, I can simply walk to the kitchen to get a crisp glass of water. A poor boy from a rural village will have to walk miles barefoot with only hope to keep him moving forward. Panel, if this was the fate of your children, would you stay quiet? But the evidence is everywhere, and ignoring it is criminal. We believe that the government must intervene and change the fate of these people. A good example of this is Langkawi. Now, did you know, before Langkawi was a popular tourist destination, it was also once a poor, unknown fishing island that relied on agriculture. But then the government stepped in and they built roads and infrastructure and public facilities that transformed the economic activities of the locals. And today, Langkawi is a global tourist destination. So this is the type of intervention that we want. Now, the implications of this transformation are far, wide, and deep. Once rural tourism becomes a viable option, it creates an ecosystem of economic growth by giving opportunities for the locals to have multiple sources of income. It creates jobs for the local community, business opportunities for the farmers and the fishermen, and it also attracts people to come back to the village and to not flock into the city where they might end up in low-paying jobs. So not only is it growing the economic wealth, but it's also improving the quality of life.
See, in Langkawi, the government played a big and pivotal role inside the development of the island. Understand that this little assistance that the government provided is what we know as government intervention. Government intervention can happen in many forms. For example, take the Cardamom Mountains of Cambodia, Sifat. The government provided seed capital, they built houses, they trained tour guides, and at the same time, they provided ecotourism activities such as jungle trekking. The direct impact of this is that they were able to build new jobs. Back then, their jobs were mostly centered on agriculture and fishing. Now, they can work in various jobs. For example, beauty spa owners, car rental owners, and tour guides. So from this, we came to theory that government intervention is utmost crucial for us to achieve successful ecotourism projects. And to test that exact theory, we decided to search for answers far and beyond our borders. And true for us, we never had to go any far. We found data inside of 12 locations from neighboring countries, and we put them inside of a table. Then we made a bar graph with the red line representing income before and the blue line representing income after government intervention. The research methodology conducted is a quantitative approach. We use secondary data from various international government ecotourism plans to study the difference of income of local communities before and after government intervention. Afterwards, we did a simple regression analysis. From the plot, we can see that there is an upward trend inside of growth for post-intervention income. And using interpretive analysis, every $1 increase from pre-intervention all the way to post-intervention income is a whopping 320% increase. So from this, we believe that it is safe to say that government intervention is one of the best ways for us to alleviate rural poverty. And ladies and gentlemen, even if you can't fathom yourself to trust this, trust the numbers we provided. Ladies and gentlemen, numbers, they don't lie.
Next, what are some recommendations that the government can use to implement these policies in Malaysia? Firstly, we believe the government must work together in identifying the rural poor. This can be achieved by creating a channel of communication between federal and state level agencies. The reason being, state level agencies are usually more proximate to the local communities, hence they can help the government in identifying them. Secondly, the Malaysia Investment Department Authority can provide financial support to locals in various ways. For example, by providing seed capital, financial schemes, and adopting tax exemption frameworks that makes development cheaper. Thirdly, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture can step up in providing upskilling programs for the locals. Through these programs, the locals will learn necessary skills in ecotourism business management that helps them properly manage ecotourism. Fourthly, the government can create investment incentives by implementing a star rating system across all ecolodge sites. In order to acquire these stars, the ecologists will have to show that they have excellent performance in maintaining green practices, building safe infrastructure, and utilizing human resources like the locals at hand. So not only will this ensure the quality and safety of ecolodge sites, but it will also incentivize the participation of locals in leading ecotourism activity. We propose 4 to 5 star ecolodge sites to be eligible for 100% foreign ownership, as it has the potential to bring in millions in foreign investment. Last but not least, we believe the government must encourage cooperation and reinvestment into ecotourism. If this action is taken, ecotourism can turn into to a sustainable source of income that not only provides for the people of today, but also for the people of tomorrow.
But wait, we can't end our presentation there yet. Our last point here might just be our most important point of all, and that is the ecotourism paradox. See, I know what you're thinking. What is the ecotourism paradox and why is it so important? Here's the gist of it. The more popular these ecotourism areas become, the more detriment happens to the surrounding nature. Take here, for example, inside of Kuala Selangor, the firefly population that once lit up the night skies like stars are being driven away by sound and light pollution. And more notoriously, inside of Pulau Perhentian, people are building resorts and now they're dumping chemical waste inside of the ocean. See, this is no longer just a paradox. Understand that it has become a warning for all of us. So we are here to propose 2 mitigation strategies. Number 1, we recommend that there is an increase in fee for people trying to visit these ecotourism attractions. Not to deter, but to filter for people who actually value these precious areas. And we believe that the money earned can be directly reinvested inside of rehabilitation programs.
The second mitigation strategy is a tourist cap. Now, a good example that's doing this is Pulau Sipadan. In Pulau Sipadan, only 237 people can enter per day, which means that if you're the 238th person, I'm sorry, but you'll have to swim back. But seriously, this is to ensure that over-tourism doesn't occur so that it doesn't harm the environment at hand. Because we believe when the earth can give to us, we must give back. In conclusion, we believe the rise of ecotourism in Malaysia is a trend that we cannot ignore. It's lifting millions of people out of poverty by providing job opportunities, business opportunities, and generating tax revenue for the government. Last but not least, we hope all of you will choose ecotourism as your next travel option to support the local businesses within our community, while also making sustainable, meaningful, and healthy experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, as students, we may not be able to change the world overnight, but we can start by noticing. Living in poverty means bearing pain, losing hope, and living without fairness. It's time we stand up, show up, and speak up for those who cannot. Thank you.
Thank you to Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak for the thought-provoking presentation. Now I would like to invite the audience to ask any question.
All right, thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah.
My question is about your mitigation strategy for the ecotourism paradox specifically. That is your customer cap for these destinations. I want to ask about how do you plan to manage the economies of scale and also this customer cap to protect the environment? Because the example you gave just now, Pulau Sipadan with 237 people as the cap, didn't actually make ecotourism a very thriving industry there. In fact, Eastern Sabah is one of the poorest regions in Malaysia in terms of GDP per capita. So how could it actually ensure an increase in living standards while also maintaining this customer cap to ensure environmental sustainability? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I have a very simple answer for you. Your question is that how do we sustain these businesses when these businesses cannot have access to economies of scale, right? I'll give you a simple example. Have you ever been to Mount Everest? Anyone here? Maybe. Oh, you have? Okay. So for those who don't know, in order to go to Mount Everest, you have to buy a permit that costs $1 million. And the thing about Mount Everest is that they're also doing these mitigation strategies like limiting tourist caps. The point being, in order to sustain your business with a smaller customer base, you have to use these two mitigation strategies to complement each other. You need to raise the fees so that one, even with smaller amounts of customers going in, you can still support your business, right? And this can be applied to Malaysia. We tell you that when people who are like nature lovers, they want to visit these places that are not available in their own countries, they're willing to pay a higher fee. So that is able to offset the cost or like to at least make up for not having economies of scale, right? Does that answer your question? Any more questions? We're open.
If there are no more questions from the audience, I would like to invite the judges to ask their questions. Oh, no.
Okay. You mentioned about, we go back to your research, and then you mentioned about reputable sources because you are doing analysis, content analysis. And you list down here some of your citations. Okay, my question is, how do you decide on which citations or which literature review is actually relevant and related to your study?
All right, so our research is mostly composed, as I mentioned, from various government international ecotourism plans, right? For example, over here, we've included the picture of the National Ecotourism Plan from MOTEC. So what we did is that we decided that we'll only take from reputable sources. For example, we use Google Scholar for us to find scholarly articles from ResearchGate and such. And at the same time, we make sure not to find sketchy websites from people who post their own opinion. Rather, we take to more government-based sources, such as the National Ecotourism Plan from MOTEC over here. So we hope that answers your question.
In terms of in terms of the years, do you have a cap, like it should be the recent 5 years, or you take like maybe for the last 10 years or 20 years, any cap, or how do you decide on the selection?
Well, we all know that relevant research is the research that comes in recent times, right? But in order to diversify and get some sort of base point, we have made sure that we get research from at least 10 years ago. For example, like the number of tourists or like the number of rural people who are in poverty, right? That was evaluated from 10 years ago until today. And most of the current mitigation strategies, in order to be most relevant, is actually taken from this year. If not this year, then from 2024. Yeah, so that's how we prioritize our research.
Hi, good morning. I have just a simple questions. Do you encounter any difficulties when you are carrying out your research?
Yeah, a lot of the difficulties with getting this research is the literature review part. Because if you see, we have actually taken 12 locations in neighboring countries, and we looked at certain researchers in all of these countries. But the thing is, it's very hard in order to like get this information because it's not easily accessible, right? So in order to overcome this issue, we use certain things like Google Search, Google Scholar, and ResearchGate in order to get these reputable sources. Another way that we used was we typed in our keyword, and so that whatever result will pop up would probably be relevant with our research topic. So even if there was some challenges, there are still tools that we can use to overcome those.
Again, I would like to thank Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak for their wonderful presentation. You may be seated. Next, I would like to invite the third team from Sekolah Tun Fatimah to present.
Test.
You may begin your presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to respected judges and everyone in the room today. I'm Nur Hazira Amani.
I'm Huda Fadunisa.
And my name's Wan Aimi Shamina.
And welcome to our journey into the world of mussel. Small, tasty, and more important than you might think. So let's take a trip back in time, or as we call it, the tides of time. Back in the 90s, Johor was known as the mussel of. Back in the 90s, Johor was known as the mussel capital. Because of that, you could find all sorts of mussel products near our beaches, from food to souvenirs. And get this, just one farming rope could collect up to 50 kilograms of mussel. But today, things have changed. The productions of mussel have dropped by 50%, and they are smaller in size. The biggest reason? Urban development and pollution, which disrupt their natural habitats. In Johor, we use two mussels methods. The first one is floating loan line system, where ropes are suspended in the water, and the juvenile mussel will spat naturally and settle and grow. Farmers reuse plastic containers and metal barrel to suspend the rope into the water. It is a simple and effective system that works with nature. Secondly, Norway pipeline system, where pipes are left in the sea with nets hanging beneath. From our interview, it is noted that the Norway pipeline system is not suitable for mussel farming in Johor, and most of the farmers prefer the floating loan line system. So, why are mussel important? First thing first, they are 100% eco-friendly. They do not harm water quality, nor they cause any pollution. In fact, they thrive in clean seawater. They don't need feeding and chemical supplement to help them grow. That's why they are considered one of the more sustainable form of aquaculture today. Secondly, and the best part, mussels are 100% usable. The meat becomes food and pet feed, while the shells can be turned into fertilizer, animal feed, and even used in medicine. A perfect example for circular economy. Lastly, mussels are high in nutritional value. They are high in protein, low in fat, and rich in vitamin and mineral like B12, zinc, and iron.
Before we dive in further, let's take a step back and understand what's going on with mussels. So, mussel farming is under serious pressure from pollution and coastal development, squeezing out habitats and harming the environment. This affects the communities that rely on mussel farming for their livelihoods. Second, when it comes to ecotourism, Johor is still searching for its main character. There is no significant experience that's truly ours. This is where green tourism comes in. If we do this right, we can revive the industry and create a tourism attraction that's uniquely Johor. So our problems are the impact of pollution and coastal development on mussels and the need for sustainable aquaculture in green tourism. So what are the aims of our research?
First, we want to assess the economic and social impact of pollution and coastal development on local mussel farmers. How does these challenges affect their businesses, livelihoods, and futures? Second, we're exploring how sustainable aquaculture, farming mussels in eco-friendly ways, can help revive the industry. Can we bring back mussel farming stronger and greener? That's what we want to find out. Finally, how can we fit mussel farming into green tourism? How do we turn it into an experience that's good for the environment, helps local communities, and brings Johor its own identity? These objectives will guide us towards solutions that benefit all parties involved. So, why exactly is mussel farming struggling? Let's break it down. Environmentally, mussels need clean, stable habitats. When red tides, harmful algae blooms hit, they don't stand a chance. At pollution and coastal development, and it's basically a survival game, and they're losing. Community-wise, people love seafood, but mention mussels, some hesitate. Why? Past food poisoning cases from polluted waters gave mussels a bad reputation, and generally, people don't know much about mussels. No connection, therefore no curiosity. From the farmers, they mostly don't know how to market their mussels properly. And generally, they feel overlooked by the government with not enough land to expand and not enough support to grow. Finally, economically, mussels have huge potential. But right now, no promotion, which means no mussel pride and no push to turn mussels into something Johor can show off to the world. So what does this all mean? For the farmers, it's hitting them where it hurts more, their income. Fewer healthy mussels means less profit, which means smaller farms and higher costs just to survive. They're working harder for less. Um, for the economically, mussels have economically it's lost potential. Seafood revenue from what could have been a strong local product. And when small businesses suffer, the families that rely on aquaculture suffer too. Environmentally, pollution will disrupt the ecosystems, lower the water quality, and lead to marine debris. And who pays the price first? Mussels. Lastly, tourism. Without action, we're letting business opportunities drift away, which means fewer seafood visitors, no unique attraction, and missing the chance to make Johor a green tourism hotspot. So overall, it's not just about mussels, it's about livelihood, nature, and untapped opportunity waiting to be unlocked.
Now, let's talk about how we did our research. We divided our methodology into two: qualitative, where we dove into articles and academic papers, and quantitative. Our online survey gave us a glimpse into public awareness and opinions on mussels and mussel farming. We also interviewed a local mussel farm owner and fisheries officers. These first-hand insights give us a much clearer picture on what's really happening on the ground. Here's a short montage of our interviews. Also, here's what we got from a survey. Only 64.5% of locals have heard of mussel farming, while 53.2% didn't know that Johor was a major mussel producer. Only 11.3% understands the real challenges mussel farmers face, and many more assumes that fishermen and traders earn a big profit. Most agrees that coastal pollution affects seafood quality, especially mussels. This makes pollution a top concern, with factories, plastic waste, and oil spills seen as the main culprits. Therefore, people want solutions. In fact, 82.3% of respondents are willing to support sustainable coastal livelihood campaigns. The interview with the fisheries officers revealed even more. We learned about coastal development, the life cycle and nutritional value of mussels, the traditional farming method and its development. Even domestic waste like shampoo and detergent can seriously be harmful to mussel farms. We visited the local mussel farm, Shanghai Chansi Product Trading in Masai Johor, where we met Mr. Chu Chin Ping, who's run the farm for over 30 years. He's passionate about making his farm greener and truly believes that ecotourism could uplift the industry. But there's a huge obstacle. He can't purchase the land from the government. Without ownership, further investment risks loss. This issue of temporary land ownership discourages farmers from developing their farms for tourism. It's worsened by the lack of government support and low public awareness, which lead to false stigmas, like the myth that mussels are dirty because they filter pollution. In truth, they only filter nutrients and plankton. Environmental shifts like changing currents and sedimentation could also affect mussel growth. And without marine conservation zones, it's hard to market mussel farms as truly eco-friendly. Tourists today expect real environmental commitment and not just labels. But there's hope as we've got solutions. First up, sustainable mussel aquaculture. By using eco-friendly methods, we can help revive muscle population and protect the environment. Pair that up with community-based farming and you've got a win-win-win. Better mussels, better oceans, and better livelihoods. Next up, combining mussel farms with green tourism. Imagine this. Tourists enjoying fresh farm-to-table seafood, learning how mussels are grown, and maybe even trying their own hand at harvesting, perfectly aligning with SDG 8. Add in a guided tour, and suddenly, it's not just a trip. It'll be an experience to remember. And we also believe in community empowerment and stronger policies. By offering aquaculture training, especially to the youth and women, we can create new job opportunities and bring fresh energy to the industry. Government and NGO partnerships can also help shape better policies, and by involving local stakeholders like farmers and fishers, we can build trust and long-term success.
So, the impact. Environmentally, marine pollution will be reduced, and in turn, coastal ecosystem will be restored. Economically, MUSSEL offer a path to revive local industries and create jobs in processing, ecosystem, and aquaculture. It also helps build a stronger local brand, positioning Johor as a leader in sustainable aquaculture. Socially, mussel farming empower communities by providing skills, jobs, and preserving traditional knowledge. It promotes environment education and improves local food security by offering healthy, reliable source of protein. We call this journey the last catch, Johor's dying mussel dream. But this dream doesn't have to end. Mussels are more than just a food. It is a legacy, a livelihood, and a part of Johor identity. So
let's not let this be the last catch.
Let's bring the dream back for our environment, our economy, and our people. Thank you.
Thank you to Sekolah Tun Fatimah for the informative presentation. Now, I would like to open to the audience to ask any questions.
Hello there, everyone. Fantastic presentation. So my question is directed to the one on my furthermost left. My question is simple. You've narrowed the scope of your presentation to simply talking about empowering the mussel industry, right? How does this then align with the sub-theme of diversifying the local economy when you're only empowering one sector?
Okay, so in general, we first research on the seafood industry, the seafood ecotourism industry in Johor, and we found that they mostly depend on home accommodations for travelers or tourists, and also mostly on like leisure farms and maybe some experiences, but they don't really like I said earlier, they're not really unique to Johor. You can also find those type of accommodations and those type of tourism in other states in Malaysia. However, mussels, they are really focused on in Johor. In other states like Malacca, Selangor, they have them also, but it's not as focused as Johor, and it's also counted as a legacy. It's a part of Johor's identity. The local people depend on it for their livelihoods. Many orang asli over, like contoh, like for example, Kampung Sungai Melayu over at Johor Bahru, and at Kampung Sungai Temon, the Seletar people, they all depend on mussel farming for their livelihoods. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Okay, my question is, we see that climate change is becoming something crucial these days. So how does climate change affect mussel farming?
Okay, listen. Mussels are extremely sensitive to change. If the water gets slightly less salty because they live in seawater, right? If it rains a lot and the water gets diluted, they fall off from the rope and die. It's the same situation with climate change. When it gets hotter and the temperature rises, the mussels are affected because they're not used to that temperature. So when the temperature rises to a certain degree that they can't handle, they will fall off from the rope and die. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Can mussel farming be scaled up without harming the environment and local biodiversity?
Yes, I think yes, because like we stated earlier in one of our solutions, we want to work with government NGOs and the government itself to help improve the muscle farming, and also we want to implement green tourism in it. Green tourism, that's one of our attractions to muscle farming. So we need to work with the government to ensure that the environment and the people are not affected by the harms of tourism, so that we can stay aligned with the green tourism attraction of muscle farming. Does that answer your question?
If there are no more questions from the audience, I will now open it to the judges.
Okay. In your research, one of the methods that you collect the data is through online survey,
Surveys,
right?
yes.
So can you please describe your population of study in terms of the age? Are they all Johorian or they come all from all over Malaysia? And then how do you reach out to these people?
All right. So our survey ranges from those as young as lower secondary school until over 60, because this survey is specifically given to the ones that are living in Johor, because this research is about mussel farming in Johor. We created the survey and reach out to our neighbors, to the teacher's family, to our family. So by doing that, we can create a more diverse opinion on mussel farms and what they feel on it.
Okay, so when you distribute the questionnaire, because you mentioned the word online,
Mm.
so do you like email them or do you send your questionnaire link or you send QR code, or is it a mixture of everything? And then if it's an email, how do you get the email address? If it's sending the link, how do you get the phone number? You know?
Yeah. So for the online survey, we shared it through WhatsApp, Telegram, social apps, and we mostly just use spread of word. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again to Sekolah Tun Fatimah for the very informative presentation. Now I would like to invite the fourth school, Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gopeng, to present.
Now, I would like to invite Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gopeng. Now, I would like to invite Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gopeng to present.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered if ecotourism could be more than just showcasing a place's beauty, but actually is becoming a game changer for the local economies? But one question remains. Can ecotourism truly diversify local economies? Before we move further, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I bid to honorable panel of judges, the moderator, the reporter, the precise timekeeper, and not to forget members of the floor. I am Nur Batrisha.
And I am Ali Hakimi.
Along with our other team members, Zulfa Aina Iman and Ardi Iroki from SPPI Gopeng, guided by our teacher advisor, Ms. Kong Sukme, is excited to present to you our research entitled Perak's Green Goal unveiling the economies of community-based ecotourism. And with that, I will let my partner to explain the context further.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us head first to understanding the background of our study. Community-based ecotourism, or CBET for short, is a type of ecotourism run and owned by the local community, especially in rural and indigenous areas. Now, more on ecotourism, it has contributed 4.5% to our GDP, and Perak has been identified as one of the high potential states due to its richness in biodiversity and also natural wonders. Now, back to our question earlier. Can community-based ecotourism or ecotourism in general diversify local economy? To answer this question, we have dived into the world of past research regarding CBET, and we've encountered some problems that we think should be addressed in order to gain a better understanding on our topic. Firstly, there are limited empirical evidence on CBET contribution to income generation, employment stability, and also the changes in villages' quality of life in Perak. Secondly, there are underexplored stakeholder perspective which limited CBET's understanding from their point of view. And lastly, lack of unclear framework for the government has led to institutional gap between the communities and the government. Now with that, 4 research questions emerge. Firstly, how does CBET affect income and employment rate in rural area? Secondly, what institutional support is needed for its sustainability? Thirdly, how does CBET influence the life quality of the local community? And lastly, what are the key obstacles hindering CBET's growth? And our research aims to achieve 4 main objectives. Firstly, investigate CBET economic impact. Secondly, evaluate changes in villages' quality of life. Thirdly, identify key challenges that is hindering its growth. And lastly, analyze institutional support that is needed for its sustainability. Now, moving on to our research methodology, we use both qualitative and quantitative method by surveying 7 homestay owners and distributed more than 100 questionnaires to respondents consisting of locals, tourists, and also workers and sellers. And for our data analysis, we convert our quantitative finding into mean and standard deviation. And for our qualitative finding, we analyze our interview transcript. We've chosen some study area in Perak, specifically in Gopeng, Kampa, and some homestay in Tapa. With that out of the way, I'll be passing it back to my partner, Patricia, for her to explain about our data finding and also our discussions.
So now I will show you the qualitative data of our research, which we have focused on knowing the inner voices of this homestay operator. So firstly, as you can see, we have asked them a few questions in which they have responded by saying that CBET has opened job opportunity for vulnerable group. Then it has opened job opportunities and support local and young workers. These have directly boosted the local businesses, keeping money within their community. Well, next, for the villagers' quality of life, in which the owner answered that the CBET has removed the need for them to have a loan and also generated extra income. Their business on homestay proved to remain profitable even during the pandemic. Next, for the key challenges, they say that they face some challenges, such as having to compete with nearby chalet, at the same time facing electricity and terrible road condition. They also face some marketing struggle, operational difficulty, as well as zero government support. So, we have asked them what kind of support would they like to have, in which they stated that they would like to have fair aid distribution, training, subsidies and tax exemption, as well as promotion at a state level. So we have done with the qualitative. We will move on to the quantitative data collected from the questionnaire response. And before I start, let me clarify how the value of mean, in which for the number of the mean, the closer the number it is to the number of 5, the stronger the agreement towards the certain item, in which, as you can see here, for this item, it is clear that the local resident mostly agree that CBET has brought more jobs depending on their area. Next, for the villagers' quality of life, in which, for the villagers' quality of life, for this item, it is clear that local residents is not fully convinced that CBET has removed the need to migrate to the city. Some may agree based on the mean, but most of them still they feel the need to go to the city to get a better job opportunities. Then, for the key challenges, it is clear that most workers and sellers are feeling the operational costs that hurt their businesses, in which, lastly, for institutional support, local residents believe that government support is essential for the growth of CBET. Now, we have done with the both qualitative and quantitative. The awaiting discussion session has arrived, in which we will talk about three aspects for the day. So, firstly, for CBET's rank, it is clear that CBET has generated income and opened more job opportunities. This shows how CBET can become a tool for local diversification, for local economy diversification. Then, secondly, CBET has improved the access to healthcare and also help family cover their family educational costs. Then, thirdly, CBET prioritized local villages in hiring the workers, in which this give them ownership and also make them stronger as a community. Well, and for next, for villages, for the CBET challenges, in which firstly, the people struggle with the lack of institutional support from the government and NGO, as many believe that they don't have enough grant or subsidies. Then, they also face high operational costs that hurt their local businesses. And thirdly, the poor road access affected their businesses, as not many tourists can access their ecotourism site. And lastly, for institutional support needed, for CBET to work in a long run, government and NGO must play a crucial role, in which they believe that they need loans, subsidies, training on marketing and financial skill, as well as promotion at the state level. Then, it is clear that our findings have fulfilled four main objectives that we tried to achieve in the earlier research. And with that, I will let my partner Ali Hakimi to end off our session.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can conclude that from our mini research that community-based ecotourism and ecotourism as a general does bring a lot of benefits to the local community, and it could diversify the local economy. However, there are some challenges that should be addressed with the help of the government, and we think one of the important things is that the local voices are heard. The local voices are heard so that this problem can be addressed in order to even empower it to strengthen the community base of ecotourism. And with that, that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Now I would like to invite the audience to ask their questions.
Yeah.
All right, first of all, thank you. So the guys of your solution is basically that we need more government and institutional support. While that may be true for as a catalyst, but again, CBET is a for-profit sector. So how actually do you ensure that the players in the CBET industry remains competitive without government support in the long run? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Right. While government support is one thing, how do you ensure that CBET players in the industry remains competitive in the long term without needing any government support or subsidies any longer? Yeah, that is.
Okay, so what we found out from our qualitative finding, yes, true. The institutional support is needed from the government. However, most of the homestay operator and the ecotourism site operator do still believe that they should be depending on themselves too, without solely depending on the government help. But in order to ease their burden, the government still need to give some institutional support. I hope that answers your question.
Any more questions? If there are no more questions, I would like to invite the judges to ask their questions.
Okay, just now during your presentation, you mentioned about structured interview. Okay, can you elaborate what do you mean by structured interview as compared to the normal interview?
Well, for the interview, we ourselves have made the question in which we have analyzed the important need to ensure that every objective is answered by the homestay operator that we interview. So we have make sure the every question answered and also give an open view on how their life affected by involving in the community-based ecotourism, which is homestay business. Does that answer your question?
Okay, another one question from me. I noticed you also have 3 different groups of respondent when you do your survey. Okay, the question is, what made you decide to have different respondent and how do you choose them? I mean, those different groups.
All right. So as you can see, the reason why we pick many, like 3 different category of group, right? So as you can see from our problem statement itself, we have stated that there are underexplored perspective of stakeholder in which we believe that by picking many more point of view from other people like tourists, locals, and also sellers, right? This can give us a more comprehensive understanding of the overall seabed impact on their side of the world.
Thank you, judges. Now I would like to invite Sekolah Menengah Sains Muar for their presentation.
Hello. Hello. Oh.
You may begin your presentation.
It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one most adaptable to change. As Malaysia faces economic uncertainty and environmental strain, this timeless truth by Charles Darwin reminds us that survivability depends on our willingness to evolve. Today we present green tourism, not just as a trend, but as the change Malaysia needs to secure a resilient and sustainable future. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to you all. Together, we are excited to present Malaysia's golden opportunity, the myriad benefits of green tourism. Next slide, please. Now, here are our team members. Now, today's objectives is simple. First, we provide you with relevant definitions. And number two, introducing you to the simple background of what green tourism actually looks like in Malaysia. Number three, introducing the problem statements. Number four, explaining our methodology on how we gathered our research. And number five, present a viable solution to overcome these set problems.
So, what is green tourism? According to widely accepted definitions, green tourism, also known as sustainable or responsible tourism, refers to tourism that minimizes societal and environmental impact of travel while promoting economic and conservative outcomes. There are four key aspects of green tourism. Number one is ecotourism destination, such as wildlife reserve and national park. And number two is adventure tourism, such as canopy walks and mountaineering. Number three is cultural tourism, where tourists can learn, explore, and experience the cultural attraction that offered by a tourist destination. And lastly is sustainable practices such as green infrastructure and waste management. Several examples of popular green tourism destinations include Kinabalu Park, Cameron Highland, and Redang Island. These sites, if properly protected, may offer long-term economic benefits.
Thank you, Farah. So, a simple background of what green tourism in Malaysia is. Now, primarily, sites like Taman Negara in Kinabalu Park are all sites that are primarily focused for environmental conservation and also for scientific research. But then again, as environmental issues in Malaysia grew in the 1990s, Malaysia started to see sustainable tourism as a means to diversify its economy, uplift rural communities, and also to protect its biodiversity. Now, this shift led to the National Ecotourism Plan in 1996, which is then updated to the following 2016 to 2025, and also the Sustainable Tourism Recovery Plan post-COVID-19. These policies emphasize eco-certifications, public participation, and also resilient tourism infrastructure, especially ahead of campaigns like Visit Malaysia Year 2026. Still, despite these initiatives, green tourism remains undervalued and remains overlooked on by the government. Why? This brings us to our core issue, which are the problem statements. Now, Malaysia's economy is facing two interrelated challenges. The first one being the volatility of traditional economic structures, which leads to number two, diverted attention away from green tourism. Let's break this down. In the first problem, as you can see here, there are four economic sectors that Malaysia depends on heavily as of right now, which is number one, palm oil industry, with number two, E&E, which is a short form for electronics and electricity, number three, rubber, and number four, petroleum. Now, these economic structures are the bestest of friends of Malaysia's economy. So obviously, as the government, as your friend, you would want to prioritize these economic sectors by giving them funding, by giving them more policy support and more attention. Whereas the initiatives of green tourism that did exist earlier beforehand did not get the same policy and did not get the same attention support. For example, as you can see, Malaysia's 12th plan and also budget 2024. Okay, next slide, please. As you can see here, this graph shows alarming revenue losses since 2020 in a form of percentage, where all four of these sectors are affected. There are several factors that did affect these revenue losses. For example, number one, global commodity price fluctuations. Number two, health crisis like COVID-19. Number three, oversupply and market saturation. And number four, climate-related crop damage. Now, these factors impose a risk into our Malaysia's economy because Malaysia is depending on these economic structures. So what does this have to do with green tourism? Second problem, which is diverted attention away from green tourism, which means insufficient attention towards green tourism. As you can see here in the pie chart that we provided from Research and Markets 2024, green tourism is only accounting for 2% of total tourism revenue in Malaysia. This means that Malaysia is not focusing on the green and sustainable aspect of it, rather only focusing on the visible appeal of tourism spots. For example, making it look more appealing, more beautiful, more famous, more attractive, etc. This proves that green tourism is often sidelined in favor of more favorable and more profitable economic sectors, thus causing major effects of tourism, for example, urbanization and mass tourism. Next slide, please. Now, what's the connection? Malaysia's economic strategy has led to number one, resource and policy prioritization, where green tourism is often sidelined in favor of more profitable sectors, which leads to number two, economic gains rather than sustainability, thus leading to number three, a lack of integration between environment and economic planning, causing major effects, for example, mass tourism and overall poor waste management. Now, obviously, a research wouldn't be done without a methodology. So we decided to use a mixed methodology approach, which is qualitative and the quantitative aspect. Now, in the qualitative aspect, we decided to interview the head teacher of Geography in our school, which is Sir Ahmad Fakrul Zaman bin Murad. We asked a total of 4 questions, but we decided to focus on 2 of the most important, which is number 1, how do the volatility and risks associated with traditional economic sectors affect Malaysia's economic stability? Now, he answered that the volatility of sectors, for example, palm oil and petroleum, affects national development, slows down revenue, and also strain communities. This highlights the need to diversify into more stable and sustainable sectors like green tourism. Second question, in what ways can the advancements of green tourism serve as a strategic lever for economic diversification in Malaysia? Now, he answered that green tourism offers job benefits, it can protect the biodiversity and overall protect the economy. Now, this highlights the need to change for factors of change. Right. So, next slide, please. As you can see here, in the quantitative aspect, we asked a total of 6 questions to 158 respondents that consist of Malaysian teenagers and adults, key stakeholders in our country's future. Around 158 people responded, and here are our 2 most important questions. The first one, whether or not the government focuses enough on green tourism. Around 77.2% said no, which means that they don't see what Malaysia's allocation, what Malaysia's focusing on green tourism, and they don't see the efforts of what Malaysia is put towards green tourism. And the second question, next slide, please. Okay, second question, whether or not the government should start to prioritize green tourism more. Around 81.6% said yes, which means they want more change. They want sustainable change in green tourism. Now, obviously, we can't deny these problems wouldn't be solved without a solution, right?
To address these challenges, we suggest creating green tourism hubs, special areas designed to balance sustainability, community involvement, and long-term economic strength. How could our model be the economic game changer Malaysia needs? First, it reduces dependence on fragile sector. They offer a stable alternative to industries like palm oil and petroleum, which are prone to price swing and climate risk. Second, meet growing global demand. As ecotourism is booming worldwide right now, Malaysia can tap into this trend by promoting sustainable travel. Lastly, build economic resilience. A green tourism-based economy is more adaptable to global shock and future crises. Our solution here are actually aligned with the well-established 3P framework, which are people, profit, and planet. Under the people dimension, they drive job creation, especially in rural and underdeveloped areas, by prioritizing local employment and offering training in sustainable hospitality. They also help preserve cultural heritage by integrating local craft, tradition, and indigenous knowledge into tourism experience, providing both social and financial incentive for cultural preservation. From the profit perspective, they stimulate local economy by supporting small and medium enterprises in hospitality, food, art, and transport. On a broader scale, they strengthen the national branding by positioning our country, Malaysia, as responsible, eco-cautious destination, and also attracting sustainable investment. Lastly, from our last PP, which are planet. So they help to promote low-impact infrastructure such as eco-lodges, off-grid system, and carbon-neutral transport option to reduce the pollution and lower the carbon footprint. They also have strengthened strengthen the climate resilience through adaptive infrastructure such as that can withstand extreme weather, erosion, and flooding. This integrated approach ensures tourism remain environmentally responsible and resilient in the face of climate change. So in conclusion, green tourism build the economy and support the preserved environment.
We have seen the damage.
We have provided a solution that works.
And we believe Malaysia's economy is in our hands. Samura, signing out. Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite the audience to ask their question.
Hello there. This is actually one of the better presentations that I've seen today. Okay, so here. Something that is very sad is most ecotourism staff are very old, right? So my question is, how do you encourage the youth to work in these places instead of migrating to the city?
Thank you for the question. Now, I'm assuming that he wanted to ask a question on how we want to to encourage the youth to venture into green tourism rather than mitigating to cities, right? So the first question, the first answer provided from our team is we want to integrate local knowledge. We want to integrate knowledge about green tourism in syllabuses. For example, as you can see here, in the the parameter of use that were provided from him just now, most students nowadays, most 13 to 17-year-olds are the ones that still have less experience or do not know or barely knows anything about green tourism in the first place. So we believe by approaching them through syllabuses, by teaching them from teachers and all of that in geography and science and all that, so it can actually promote the knowledge of green tourism and also to open their minds about green tourism. For the second question, for the second answer, I believe that government support to potential promotions and also government promotions and also incentives can also help these youths to understand more about green tourism. For example, as you can see here in Malaysia, there are several events that are held in Malaysia that can teach these youths, can teach these teenagers to understand more about green tourism. So I believe that with both of these integrated approach, we can ensure the knowledge of green tourism within youth, and we can ensure a better knowledge for the better practices from the youth for the planet. Did that answer your question? All right, thank you. Any more questions?
I really like your model on green tourism hub, but my question is, how is your model other than different than existing green cities?
Right, thank you for the question. Does anyone want to answer the question or? Okay, so our model that we provided, which is green tourism hubs, is different from green cities for a number of reasons. For example, as you can see here in Malaysia, for example, Forest City is actually a failed eco-city project. Why? Because they built the projects just for the sake of profit, just for the sake of Chinese investment. So by integrating our model, we actually avoid that by focusing on the cultural preservations and also cultural traditional knowledge and also the indigenous knowledge of their hubs itself. Because as provided by Aiman, indigenous knowledge is actually very important in building hubs and all of that, because indigenous people are the ones closest to nature, so they know more about the nature than we do. So by integrating indigenous knowledge into our buildings, into our projects and all of that, we can ensure that we can build the solution without having adverse environmental effects. Did that answer your question? Right, thank you. Any questions coming from the judges? All right. Okay, go ahead.
So this wonderful presentation, this question is directed to the boy on my left. So given your solution, how exactly do you know that the locals are ready to work in the ecotourism industry?
Sorry, can you repeat your question, please?
Given your solution, how do you exactly know that the locals are ready to work in the ecotourism industry?
Turis orang lokal kerja dekat sini macam bukan secara seperindik dan bukan secara paksa.
Okay, so our solution is not a force. It is for the people want to accept and to accept the solution to this is benefit for them. So it is their right to choose towards this solution to provide them benefit the economy. So
all right, okay, sure.
Okay, in your abstract, it is mentioned that qualitative data was gathered through semi-structured semi-structured interviews with a green tourism expert. How far this data actually respondent substantiate your insight to your research?
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Now, we did mention that in our qualitative research, we interviewed the head teacher of geography in our school. We believe that he is also a green tourism expert because he has told us that during his time when he was in UPSI, he had to do some type of coursework. These courseworks, what he has to do is to venture around villages, to venture around places and all of that practice ecotourism and also practice green tourism in general. So so that's why in our abstract we wanted to integrate. We told you that we want to interview a green tourism expert because we believe that our head teacher of geography is a refined and is a good green tourism expert example in our research. Did that answer your question? Okay, all right. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you for the interesting presentations. Thank you to all educators for your time. And with that, our first session for today has ended. Thank you.